All right, Matt. So how's your day going so far?
It's going very well, thank you.
Awesome. If you didn't hear the little robot, we are currently in progress recording.
I
Um,
did.
I have seen the movie Three Demons, which we're about to
Hmm.
speak about. Seen it
Yes.
twice. Um, but I would like to begin by having you explain in your words rather than a synopsis of what this film is.
Um, the film is basically a tale of possession from the point of view of the possessed person. So it's about a deputy who kind of becomes like his life becomes unraveled in a very short period of time because of these um, this thing he triggers like with a dead body basically. But as I've said in some other interviews is like, the moment when he moves the hand, everybody thinks that's when it started, but it really actually starts before that. So he was kind of taken over before all of that happened anyways. So a little
Interesting.
insight there. Yeah.
Interesting. I'm curious. It was not the same actor who played the old version and the young version, was it?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, it was. I couldn't tell for sure if it
Yeah, yeah,
was
yeah,
or if they
yeah, yeah.
just looked similar. That's
No,
interesting.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so did you guys have a whole prosthetic team putting together his look for the older version?
No, it was just, growing about a beard and making him look a little, I mean, we did a little bit of makeup, but that's just Pete being a chameleon. He looks younger. Like, I don't know, it's funny because, when his beard is shaved, like he can walk in the room and it looks completely different from when he has the beard, like the beard on, which we affectionately called Jerome for a while. And so no, that's just the Pete look.
Okay. Well, I watched it, like I said, I watched it twice. I, had a few questions
Hmm.
about, well, first let me ask you, how many hats did you wear for this? Did you wear like writer, director, producer? What all did you have your hands
How much time do you have? Let's
in?
see. Uh, I was co-writer with Pete, producer, director, editor, composer. Um, I was composed with my bandmate Chad Cherry. We have a band, a synth band called Dreaming in Neon. So we do a lot of that kind of scores, kind of eerie, creepy scores for things.
That's cool.
And some sound design and special makeup effects as well.
So did you do the sound yourself, or did the band work together to make some sound for the some songs and music for this film?
The sound design was me. That was me just spending a lot of time in post creating a lot of those otherworldly sounds and stuff, and really just trying to create some emotional
Hmm.
space with them. Really just reversing sounds, pulling weird, interesting people talking and putting in weird backwards things. Finding like these frequencies that kind of make you feel a little uneasy. So some like some sound design stuff that's a little, it has some manipulation, but it's supposed to be that way because of the way he feels. It's supposed to go along with the way Fisher's character feels in the movie.
Now, obviously, early on in the film, we see both versions of the character.
Hmm.
So I'm curious if there was ever a time where you didn't plan on showing that early because, it kind of not gives away, but shows that he survives what he's going through, or at least it,
Right, right. Yeah,
it
early on we didn't. We were kind of diving in a bit more ambiguous, if you could be more ambiguous. But I think after kind of getting into post and cutting the film and stuff, we were like, I feel like I want to add a bit more. I actually want to give a little bit more of a gateway for the audience into it, because some people are just, it might be like they're not going to track with what's going on if you don't give them a little bit of something there.
right.
So that kind of came after the fact of the initial shooting, and then we're like, I think I want to round this out a bit more.
So is this the first horror project that you've done?
No, it's not. Actually, we had a film that came out, what is it, 2020, last year in November through Lionsgate, called The Spore, which was like a, oddly enough, like a kind of a mutating virus thing, which was very that film was done too in like kind of like this fly on the wall sort of way, like just people being random things happening, and these people, these things happening to them and stuff. So we had shot that film, both of those films within a period of a year, and then I've worked on several other movies and stuff in my career. So
That's cool.
yeah.
And so where does your passion for music and horror, like, or movies overlap? Like, which did you begin first? And did one feed into the other, or is it kind of a combination of both?
Um, I would say, John Carpenter is a huge influence in that space, because he's really good at creating tone, like music tonally for his movies.
Yeah,
So Halloween is a huge part of that. As soon as you see Halloween and you're like, with the music, like you take the music out, as we all know, it's just not that scary, right? So,
right.
but once you put that in there, just like Jaws, same thing. If you just see a
Hmm.
shark movie, you're like, okay, but you put the music in. So I kind of early on when I was watching films, I really gravitated towards the idea of those two things being, working together in this way of like creating such a good tone. Um, because I can watch movies that don't have like the best score or a soundtrack, and it just feels kind of flat. So I really, for me, I love those two things coming together. So I would say early on, I played guitar when I was younger, so I liked playing like rock bands and stuff like that. And then it just kind of eventually switched into playing synthesizers and creating more soundscape stuff with it. So
Okay, cool. Now with Three Demons, did you work with anybody on that project that you had worked with before? Like, did you bring anybody on that you worked with in your prior movie or that you had already known before this movie?
yeah, actually, everybody on Three Demons came from. We had done the movie The Spore, so cast and crew all kind of came over because when we shot Three Demons, we were basically in lockdown, and so we are like, we want to go make another movie, um, but we can only go make another movie with just a few of us. So what's the movie going to be, and how can we do it, and how can we pull it off? And so that was kind of the thing. We all isolated. Everybody was like, let's make sure we're testing, and I think maybe twice we shut down for a couple of days because there was a potential scare of something happening, and
Right.
then it was like everybody was fine and we just kept going. So yeah, it was a good little group that we went from film to film with.
Did you have such a minimalist cast on on the sport?
Yeah, I think, well, that actually that had a bigger cast, but it was done in a way, um, for people who haven't seen it, it's almost kind of like an anthology movie in a way, but it's traveling through people in a linear way, but it's different little stories as it goes. So one story would have one person. I think the cast total was maybe 10 people in that movie.
But they were being filmed separately, essentially.
Yeah, their stories intersected, and there was connection there, but I think that's what, for some people, like if you want a straight linear, kind of spoon-fed horror film, that's not your movie. So
So when you first decided on working on the Three Demons, was that brought to you, pitched to you, or is that something that you came up with on your own?
actually, Pete, who is the lead actor, was also the co-writer. Him and I came up with that idea that we wanted to kind of tell this story, and it just snowballed from there. Like the ideas kept coming, and we're like, oh, we'll do this and we'll do this, and um, so it was totally our own doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think that it was a pretty good collaboration.
Oh, thank
Um,
you.
I wanted to know then, when did you first, like, what was your spark for movies? Obviously, you talked about your inspiration as far as music and films go, but
Hmm.
at what point in your life did you realize that that uh, that particular type of entertainment was something that you were hoping to get into?
Well, when I was really young, I saw Star Wars when I was really young, like 11 or 12 or and that, there's creatures in it, and there's again the music, all the things, right? This just like this space opera, and I was completely blown away. Like, how do you do this? How what, like just to see like Chewbacca, like walking around, you're like, there's this creature walking around. How do they do that? So I just deep dive into anything I could learn about that through books or whatever. And then it was like then watching Raiders. And so it's those kind of movies, these big B movies, basically, that was like definitely a transcending moment for me. I was like, whatever this is, I want to be involved in it. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to figure out how to um, make something. And so that kind of has just stuck with me since I was a kid. I mean, it's just all I've ever wanted to do. I don't even know if I would know how to do anything else, to be honest.
Right. Well, we talked about your past, we talked about your present,
Yeah.
but what else do you have coming up in the future? Is there anything you can talk about movie wise, as far as after Three Demons, and after Spore?
Yeah, we're actually working on some kind of like spooky family stuff, kind of like Goosebumps type of stuff. And also Pete and I have written a couple other scripts that I'm really um, into. And I have a friend who's writing a script right now that he had pitched to me that I think might be a lot of fun to do. But as far as like what that actually is, I think we have quite a few things in the works right now. We're just trying to like, okay, which one's going first,
Yeah,
so I think we're about to get real busy here. We all kind of took a little time off, and now we're ready to dive back in.
that sounds pretty cool. Now,
Yeah.
is there to before I don't want to wrap until we talk about Three Demons more.
Yeah.
So, um, what kind of things do you feel or think about this movie that people don't ask you in interviews? A lot of times people say, "Oh, what was your inspiration?"
Hmm.
Da, 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 da. I ask some general questions, but I want to know what type of things that you have on your mind that you want to get off your chest and kind of give you a platform to say that.
Well, I think that the thing about this movie, and whether people pick up on it or not, I think there's a lot of stuff to do with kind of mental health in this movie, um, because whether I spoke to another interviewer, and she was talking about the schizophrenic nature of the movie and the way it was at, and it kind of spoke to her because she's had some of that in her uh, family history, you know, and the amount of layers of things that we've tried to put in this movie to make it a bit more elevated, in the sense of it's, yeah, it's a low budget movie, and it's got kind of some of the classic tropes or whatever, but we're trying to be a bit more in touch with talking about mental health, or somebody who might have been um, going through something, and on the surface you see these people and you just don't know, right? I mean, that's kind of like how it is in the country and stuff too. They're just people who need help, or who don't talk about it, or there's whether there's stigma on it or something like that. So we're really trying to, we're not trying to be like put this giant spotlight on it, but we're trying to put something into a story that we hope is a little bit deeper, and also it's in the guise of a horror film. So I think it's a good platform for it to kind of
That's
um,
that's
show
really
people.
cool because
Yeah.
that's like another through line, with the story.
Yeah.
So it stays apart through the whole movie. I want to know, what kind of other misconceptions do you think people have about this film, or misconceptions just about this film in general?
Um, well, it's funny. I don't like to read reviews of the movie, but because things are so subjective, right? So, but I read like a couple that I think somebody was like, this movie has no plot. It has no, everything's bad cinematography, acting, all up and down the board. And I was just like, it was kind of, of course, that's someone's point of view, whatever. I can't, but I was just thinking like, maybe they just missed, or maybe they were distracted, or I know it's a polarizing movie. Some people are just not going to like it just for the nature of what the movie is, but because it's not your typical horror film, right? It's not like linear A to B, it jumps around, but we tell you this is what's going to happen in the movie. And
Right.
so I think it's funny when you get those kind of things, the misconception like there's no plot or it's just a horrible movie. And I don't think I need to, defend it. I just find it funny when, it's easy to sit on the couch and criticize, but when you go out there and you put a lot of your time and effort into something, no one sets out to make a bad movie, right?
That's
That just happens
entirely true.
sometimes. It just happens. So and sometimes things are out of your control. But I guess that's the thing, is like, if you, just if you just don't like it because you think there's no plot or anything, I think that you're maybe missing what's going on in the movie.
Yeah. So do you have, like, besides COVID, was there any other major challenges that kind of threw a stick in what you were trying to do when you were filming?
Well, I think it is, and just when you're making an independent movie in general, it is, well, and then yeah, throw COVID on top of it. So you out here, we're filming in Michigan. Do you have weather? You're outside, so
Oh,
day to day.
quick injection. Where in Michigan?
Yeah, we were in Lowell, Michigan.
Okay, because I'm in Ohio, so I was curious. I
Oh,
was
you
in,
are? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
like right over the line from Michigan, so that's why I was curious. Sorry to
Oh,
interrupt you. Go
oh
right
yeah,
back
yeah.
ahead with your.
Oh no. So yeah, it's not too far away from, like 20 minutes away from Grand Rapids area. So
Okay, yeah, that's not far at all.
yeah. So we, because our director of photography, he owns property there. So we had kind of like our own backlot, and we shot there. And I think the biggest challenges would be just maybe for this movie was weather and the time that you had to, like, we're running out of time in the day, just like any kind of movie or independent film, and the leaves are starting to change and things are changing, and your backgrounds and stuff. So you've got to fight against those kind of things, and then start turning. Then you got to go in and do some VFX enhancement or whatever, anything like that, where you're just like, we gotta, you know, we're battling against Mother Nature. I think that was the biggest challenge, I would say.
Right.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
I never even, honestly, I've never even thought about that, like the changing of the nature as you're filming and how you have to fight against that. That's not something that I've ever put thought into, and I've interviewed a lot of filmmakers. So
yeah.
thanks for bringing that up. That's really interesting.
Yeah,
Uh,
especially when you're filming outside, like you have no control. And in the Midwest, it can rain one day, the next day, or 5 minutes or what, and you're
it
all of
can
a sudden like,
snow in summer.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
Midwest is crazy.
yeah. So you have no idea what you're gonna get when you go out there every day. I mean, because I'm from LA, and where I was doing stuff for 20 years, and then you come here and you're like, wait, what's going on? You know what I
Yeah,
So yeah,
exactly.
that's a challenge for sure.
Yeah. Is there, before I wrap, is there
Yeah.
anything that you wanted to plug for your band or anything else that you wanted to plug website wise, social media wise?
Well,
Go
yeah, I
ahead.
think if people go to, if they want to learn more, just see some of the other stuff we've done, if they go to nightprowlervideo.com, that's our website. We have like some really cool shorts on there that people might dig. And then I'm on Instagram at Night Prowler Video, where you can kind of just see some of the day-to-day stuff that we're doing, and that shows you some of the new stuff we're working on right now as well.
Okay, that
Yeah.
sounds great. Is there anything last things you wanted to say about the movie before I drop it?
I just want people to check it out, give it a chance, and know that it's not your typical horror film. So just,
Now, did that release this week?
yeah, it came out on Tuesday. Yeah.
That's what I thought. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's out on Tuesday now, and that's on digital
It's on digital platforms and DVD.
and DVD. Okay, that's what
Yeah.
I thought. Awesome.
Yeah.
So everybody, make sure that you guys check out Three Demons, and thank you so much again for joining me, Matt.
Yeah. Thank you.
You make sure you stay safe.